Following the delivery of the Ten Commandments, God institutes additional laws to the people through Moses. These are mostly found in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. These laws deal with systems of religious offerings, administration of the religious system, health and safety, ritual purity, personal holiness, land use, and other things. The overall vision is of an integrated religious and political order with centers of authority in the priestly class and in the clans that make up the 12 tribes of Israel. Many of the laws are similar to other ancient Near Eastern law codes, but there are some unique elements related to the clan system, land use, and the treatment of outsiders. The laws about usury, land use, indentured servitude, and slavery are interesting from an economic and legal perspective because they deal directly with questions of property rights and debt. The Torah forbids usury, defined as lending at interest, at least among Israelites who might be supported by a household. Both the Exodus and Leviticus texts on usury specifically mention loans to the poor. The Leviticus text is prefaced with a command to help fellow Israelites who become poor as you would a foreigner and stranger so they can continue to live among you. These rules then don't anticipate a monetary system, but emphasize generosity within the family and clan system. This contrasts with other ancient Near Eastern law codes which allowed lending at interest, although interest rates often were regulated. The land use system in Leviticus involves real property held by clans and families. Leviticus 25:1-24 prescribes an intricate set of regulations for use of the land, a cycle of Sabbath years, a Jubilee year, and a rule against outright land sales. The land can be cultivated for 6 years, with the 7th year set aside as a Sabbath of complete rest, Shabbaton Shabbat, for the land. During the Sabbath year, crops cannot be sown or pruned. Whatever grows on its own can be consumed but not gathered and stored. 7 cycles of Sabbath years, 49 years, leads to the Jubilee in the 50th year. In the Jubilee year, liberty, deror, is to be proclaimed to all of the inhabitants of the land. Every person is to return to their property, akuzah, and family, mispacha or clan. The land laws in Leviticus 25 prohibit outright sale, but assume a kind of property leasehold system with an automatically expiring term. Leviticus 25:23 states that the land shall not be sold in perpetuity, for the land is mine. With me you are but aliens and tenants or sojourners. If a landholder needed money, however, the land could be sold temporarily. All such sales or leases automatically expired in the Jubilee year and the property reverted to the seller. Before the Jubilee year, a relative of the seller could redeem the land, or the seller could do so if he subsequently acquired means by refunding the amount corresponding to the remaining years of tenancy to the buyer-tenant. Before the Jubilee year, a relative of the seller could redeem the land, or the seller could do so if he subsequently acquired the means, by refunding the amount corresponding to the remaining years of tenancy to the buyer-tenant. The Levitical gleanings law requires that a portion of any cultivated field, the edges of the field, be left for the aliens and the poor. When you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap to the very edges of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. You shall not strip your vineyards bare, or gather the fallen grapes of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and the alien. I am the Lord your God. The rules for houses were different depending on the location and owner of the house. The sale of a house in a walled city entailed a 1-year right of redemption. After the 1-year redemption period had lapsed, the house passed to the purchaser in perpetuity with no reversion during the Jubilee year. A house in an unwalled village, however, counted as an open field and therefore was subject to the regular redemption laws and the Jubilee reversionary interest. Different rules applied to the cities of the priestly class, the Levites. The Levites were granted a perpetual right of redemption in the houses within their cities, and any houses redeemed from the Levites reverted to them in the Jubilee year. The open land surrounding Levite cities was inalienable. The latter section of Leviticus 25 contains laws relating to indentured servitude and slavery. If a kinsman, probably meaning here a fellow native citizen, encounters financial difficulty, he is to be supported as a resident alien. He is not to be lent money at interest or sold food for a profit. If the kinsman's circumstance does not approve, he and his family can be hired as indentured laborers. The Jubilee year ends the period of indenture, at which time the servant and his family can return to their ancestral lands and families. A resident alien also had the right to hire natural-born citizens as indentured servants, subject to the rights of redemption and the Jubilee release. Persons who are not kinsmen, including foreigners and resident aliens, however, could be acquired as slaves, ebed, also meaning male servant, and amah, also meaning maid or handmaid. Slaves were considered property, achuzah, and were passed down through inheritance. There was no provision in the Levitical law for redemption of non-kinsman slaves or for their manumission during the Jubilee year. Although Leviticus 19 repeats the Decalogue's prohibition on theft, the Levitical land use and finance systems show that the rights in real property and money were heavily qualified. The prohibition against usury among Israelites restricted the accumulation of monetary capital. The gleanings laws require a portion of all productive land to be dedicated to the poor. The Jubilee laws subject all land holdings to reversionary interests in favor of the community. And the indenture laws limited perpetual human servitude to foreigners and aliens. There's nothing like this degree of detail or nuance about land, debt remission, gleanings for the poor, and personal servitude in the other ancient Near Eastern law codes. There are some parallels in ancient Near Eastern royal decrees pronouncing the cancellation of debts, freeing of slaves, restoration of ancestral lands after significant events like military victories or the accession of a new king. And the practice of leaving gleanings for the poor was not uncommon in Mesopotamian cultures.